Sign here, Jason. It's just paperwork. My brother's voice was smooth, like always. But that signature stole everything. I'm Jason Caldwell, 38, a high school math teacher. My brother, Nate, sold our family's inherited house, our last item Mom, behind my back. I trusted him like a fool. Now I know trust can be a blade, and I'm done bleeding. The house wasn't much. A small cedar cabin on a half-acre lot, tucked between pines in upstate New York. But to me, it was everything. Mom's voice lived in those walls, her humming as she cooked, her soft scolding when Nate and I tracked mud inside. She raised us there, just the three of us after Dad left. When she died 5 years ago, lung cancer stealing her breath, that house became her ghost. Nate and I stood in the kitchen, still smelling her lavender soap, and swore we'd keep it forever. I believed him. My hands clenched just thinking about how naive I was. Every summer, I'd drive up from the city, where I teach geometry to bored teenagers. I'd sit on the creaky porch, grading papers, the wind carrying the scent of pine. The place was falling apart. Leaky roof, chipped paint. But it was ours. Mom left it to us both, equal shares, her will as clear as her love. Nate, always the charming one, said he'd handle the taxes, the upkeep. You're busy, Jason, he'd say, clapping my shoulder. Let me take care of it. I trusted him. Why wouldn't I? He was my brother. Last June, I pulled into the driveway for my usual visit. The air felt wrong, too quiet. The mailbox was gone, the lawn overgrown. My key didn't work. My pulse quickened as I peered through the window. Empty. No furniture, no photos, just bare floors staring back. My stomach dropped like I'd missed a step. I called Nate, my fingers shaking as I dialed. What's going on? I asked, voice tight. He laughed. Too casual, too quick. Oh, that. Sold it, man. Market was hot. Got a great deal. My breath caught. Sold it. Our house. The one we promised to keep. I pressed him, my voice rising. But he dodged, said he'd explain later. I stood in that empty driveway, the sun burning my neck, and felt something crack inside me. Mom's memory, our promise, it was all gone. Nate's words echoed in my head, slick and hollow. I drove home in silence, my knuckles white on the steering wheel, replaying every moment I trusted him. Childhood fights, his smug grin when he got his way, the way Mom always forgave him. I'd been blind. I dug through my files that night, found the will. Both our names, clear as day. I called a lawyer friend, my voice low, embarrassed. Can someone sell a house without both owners signing? His pause was heavy. Not legally, he said. My jaw tightened. I stared at the old photo of Mom on my desk, her smile soft but tired. Nate hadn't just sold the house. He'd forged my signature, erased me from the deed. My chest burned, not just with anger, but with shame, for believing him, for staying silent too long. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at my kitchen table, the clock ticking past 3 a.m., my coffee cold. The betrayal wasn't just the house. It was every promise Nate broke, every time I let him slide. But this was theft, not just of property, but of her. I looked at Mom's photo again, my throat tight. I'm sorry, I whispered. Then, quieter to myself, he's not getting away with this. I gripped the phone, my lawyer's voice steady on the other end. What he said next made my blood run cold. The lawyer's words hit like a punch. Forged. Your signature's a fake. I sat in my apartment, the deed spread across my kitchen table, my eyes locked on the scrawl that wasn't mine. My hands shook, not just from anger, but from the gut-twisting realization that Nate planned this. He'd sat across from me at family dinners, smiled, and lied. I could still hear his voice from that call, casual as if he'd sold an old couch, not our childhood home. Got a great deal, he'd said. My jaw clenched so hard my teeth ached. I drove to his place the next day, unannounced. Nate lived in a shiny new condo downtown, all glass and steel, a far cry from our cedar cabin. His driveway held a sleek black BMW, wax still fresh, glinting under the sun. My beat-up sedan looked like a joke next to it. I knocked, my pulse hammering in my ears. He opened the door, all grins, like nothing was wrong. Jason, what's up? He said, leaning against the frame. I wanted to shove him. Instead, I held up the D, my voice low. Explain this. His smile faltered, just for a second, but he recovered fast. Look, man, it was a business move. I meant to tell you. Meant to tell me. My chest tightened. I stepped closer, my shadow falling over him. You forged my name, Nate. You stole from me. He shrugged, and said, You're making a big deal. I was going to split the money. His eyes darted away, and I knew he was lying. My fist balled, but I didn't swing. Not yet. I spent the next week digging. My lawyer, Karen, was a pit bull, her office cluttered with legal books and coffee mugs. She pulled records, bank transfers, sale documents, emails. Nate had moved fast, selling the house to a developer for $400,000. Half was mine, legally, but my account was empty. Karen found a paper trail leading to an offshore account in Nate's name. My stomach churned. He hadn't just sold the house. He planned to keep every cent. I pictured him signing my name, his pen scratching over my rights, my trust. My throat burned with the betrayal. I confronted him again, this time at a coffee shop. Neutral ground, I told myself, though my hands trembled around my mug. Where's my share, Nate? I asked, voice steady but cold. He leaned back, smirking. You're too dramatic, Jason. Teaching's made you soft. Soft. The word cut deeper than it should have. I leaned forward, my eyes locked on his. You think I'm soft? Keep the money. See what happens. His smirk faded, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of doubt in his eyes. Driving home, I passed his condo again. That BMW sat there, a trophy of his greed. I stopped, staring at it, my breath fogging the window. Mom's face flashed in my mind, her tired smile, her calloused hands from years of work to keep that house. Nate didn't just steal from me. He stole her. My fingers tightened on the steering wheel, and something cold settled in my chest. I wasn't just going to get my money back. I was going to make him feel this. I pulled out my phone, Karen's number ready. Her next words would change everything. Nate's words clung to me like damp rot. Soft. He called me, his smirk sharp enough to cut. I sat in my apartment, the city's hum faint through the window, my coffee cold again. The clock read 2 a.m., but sleep was a stranger. My mind churned, dragging me back to childhood. Nate stealing my toys, charming Mom out of punishment, always leaving me to clean up his mess. I'd stayed quiet then, swallowing my anger like a good brother. Now, that silence felt like a noose. My hands gripped the table, knuckles pale, as I realized how long I'd let him take from me. The house wasn't just wood and nails. It was Mom's garden, her faded apron hanging by the stove, the creak of her rocking chair. Nate sold it like it was nothing, like her memory was disposable. My chest ached, not just for the betrayal but for my own failure. I trusted him, handed him the keys to our past. My eyes stung, and I wiped them hard, ashamed of the tears. I wasn't soft. I was blind, and that was worse. I paced the apartment, my footsteps heavy on the cheap linoleum. Memories flooded in. Nate borrowing money, never repaying, promising to handle things. I let it slide, thinking family meant loyalty. But loyalty didn't forge signatures. It didn't hide bank accounts. My jaw tightened as I pictured his BMW, bought with Mom's legacy. I stopped pacing, my breath shallow. I wasn't a kid anymore, eating his scraps. I was done being the quiet one. By 4 a.m., I was staring at my phone, Karen's number glowing. I'd called her after the coffee shop confrontation, her voice calm but sharp. We can sue, she'd said. Fraud's clear. But it's a fight. A fight. The word felt right, like a match struck in the dark. I dialed her again, my voice low but steady. What do we need? I asked. She didn't sugarcoat it. Documents, witnesses, time, and money, she added. I winced, my teacher's salary already stretched thin. But I saw Nate's smirk again, and my resolve hardened. Do it, I said. Karen sent me a list of what to gather. Bank statements, Mom's will, anything proving Nate's lies. I spent the day scouring files, my hands trembling as I found the original deed. My name, right next to his, in Mom's careful handwriting. My throat tightened. She trusted us both. I called an old neighbor, Mrs. Larson, who'd seen Nate with fancy men in suits at the house last year. Her voice shook with pity. I thought you knew, Jason. I didn't answer, my silence louder than ever. I met Karen that evening, her office smelling of stale coffee and ink. She spread the papers out, her eyes narrowing. This is enough to start, she said. Nate's sloppy. We'll bury him. I nodded, my pulse steady for the first time in days. I saw Nate's condo in my mind, his car, his smug laugh. He thought I'd roll over, like always. But silence wasn't my cage anymore. It was my weapon. Karen slid a folder across the table, her face grim. You need to see this before we go further. Karen's folder was heavier than it looked, its edges worn, stuffed with papers that spelled out Nate's betrayal. I sat in her office, the fluorescent light buzzing overhead, my fingers tracing the first page. A bank statement, Nate's name, and a transfer for $400,000, the exact amount from the house sale. My breath hitched. He hadn't just sold our home. He'd funneled every cent into a hidden account. My hand shook, not from fear but from a rage so deep it felt like it could crack my bones. He planned this, I said, voice low. Karen nodded, her eyes sharp. There's more. She spread out documents like a dealer laying cards. A forged deed with my signature, clumsy but convincing. Emails between Nate and the developer, joking about cutting out the dead weight. That was me. Dead weight. My chest burned, my pulse loud in my ears. I saw Nate's face in my mind, his easy grin, the way he clapped my shoulder growing up, promising we were a team. All lies. Karen pointed to a notarized form. The notary's name, unfamiliar. Bought off, she said. Nate covered his tracks, but not well. I clenched my jaw, picturing him signing my name, laughing as he stole Mom's legacy. I drove to his condo that night, the folder tucked under my arm like a weapon. My knuckles were white on the steering wheel, my stomach churning. I didn't call ahead. I wanted to see his face when I showed up. He opened the door, shirt unbuttoned, a beer in hand. Jason, again, he said, smirking. You're obsessed, man. I shoved the folder at him, papers spilling onto his polished floor. Explain this, I said, my voice steady but sharp. He glanced at the documents, his smirk fading for a split second before he laughed. Loud, forced. You're playing detective now? Get a life. That laugh broke something in me. I stepped closer, my shadow over him, my voice dropping. You forged my name. You stole from me. From Mom. His eyes flickered, but he leaned back, casual. Prove it, he said, sipping his beer. My fists clenched, nails biting my palms. I wanted to hit him, to wipe that smug look off his face. But I saw Mom's photo in my mind, her tired smile, and I stopped. Beating him wouldn't fix this. I needed something sharper. I will, I said, turning away. His laugh followed me out the door, but it sounded hollow. Back home, I sat at my kitchen table, the folder open, paper scattered. Karen had called earlier, saying we had enough for a lawsuit. Fraud, breach of fiduciary duty. But it wasn't just about the money. It was about Nate thinking he could walk over me, like he always had. My eyes fell on Mom's old apron, folded on a shelf, a relic I'd kept. I touched it, the fabric soft but fraying, like my trust. I wasn't just fighting for the house anymore. I was fighting for every time I'd stayed silent, every time I'd let him win. My breath steadied, my resolve cold and clear. Nate thought he buried me. He was about to learn how wrong he was. My phone buzzed, Karen's name on the screen. We're ready to file, she said. But Nate's made a move you won't like. The courtroom was colder than I expected, the wooden benches hard under me. My tie felt like a noose, my palms slick with sweat as I sat beside Karen. Across the room, Nate lounged in his chair, his tailored suit crisp, his smirk sharp enough to cut glass. He caught my eye and winked, like this was a game. My stomach twisted, but I held his gaze, my jaw tight. This wasn't a game. This was our mother's memory, my half of her legacy, and he'd stolen it with a pen and a laugh. Karen leaned close, her voice low. Stay calm. We've got this. I nodded, but my heart hammered, loud enough I swore the judge could hear it. The room was small, packed with papers and tension, the air heavy with the hum of fluorescent lights. Karen stood, her heels clicking as she presented our case. Fraud, forgery, breach of trust. She laid out the evidence. The forged deed, the bank transfers, the emails where Nate called me dead weight. My chest burned hearing those words again, my fingers gripping the bench until they ached. Nate's lawyer, a slick guy with 2 white teeth, spun a story about miscommunication and good intentions. Nate nodded along, his face all earnest regret, but I saw the glint in his eyes. He thought he'd charm his way out, like always. I shifted in my seat, my breath shallow, remembering every time he talked his way past Mom, past me. Not this time. Karen pulled out the forged deed, holding it up like a trophy. This signature, she said, her voice steady, is not Jason Caldwell's. The notary's testimony followed, nervous, halting, admitting Nate paid her off. The judge's eyes narrowed, and Nate's smirk faltered. I took the stand, my throat dry, my hands trembling as I swore the oath. The lawyer asked about the house, Mom's will, our promise. I spoke slowly, my voice rough but clear, describing the cedar cabin, Mom's laugh, the way Nate swore we'd keep it. He signed my name, I said, looking at Nate. He sold our home without a word. His eyes flicked away, his jaw tight. For the first time, he looked small. The room was silent, the weight of my words sinking in. I stepped down, my legs shaky, but my resolve iron. Karen's closing was brutal. Every word a hammer. She showed the bank records, the offshore account, Nate's lies laid bare. The judge scribbled notes, her face unreadable. Nate's lawyer scrambled, but the room felt different now, the air heavier on his side. I watched Nate, his fingers tapping nervously, his charm cracking. My pulse raced, not with fear but with something sharper, hope. I saw Mom's apron in my mind, folded on my shelf, and felt her strength in me. This wasn't just about money. It was about making him face what he'd done. As the judge adjourned to consider her ruling, I stood, my shirt damp with sweat, my heart pounding like a drum. Nate glanced at me, his eyes hard but unsteady. I didn't look away. For the first time, I felt taller than him. Karen touched my arm, her voice quiet. We did good, Jason. I nodded, but my mind was on the gavel, on justice, on the moment Nate would finally lose. The judge returned, her face stone. Her next word would decide if Nate's lies would bury him, or me. The courtroom was silent when the judge returned, her face carved from granite. My hands gripped the bench, slick with sweat, as she read the verdict. Fraud proven, she said, her voice cutting through the air. Nathan Caldwell is ordered to repay Jason Caldwell $200,000, plus damages. My breath caught, a weight lifting off my chest, but my heart still pounded. Nate's face was pale, his smirk gone, his eyes darting like a trapped animal. I stared at him, my jaw tight, feeling something cold and satisfying settle in me. He'd lost. Karen squeezed my arm, her smile tight but triumphant. We did it, she whispered. I nodded, but my mind was racing. The money was mine again, legally, but it wasn't enough. Nate had stolen more than dollars. He'd taken Mom's memory, our promise, my trust. I saw his BMW in my mind, gleaming in his driveway, bought with her legacy. My fingers twitched, anger curling like smoke. Justice wasn't just a check. I wanted him to feel the weight of what he'd done. I didn't plan it, not exactly. But 2 days later, I was at my desk, the settlement papers in front of me, Mom's old apron folded nearby. I thought of Nate's job, some high-flying sales gig at a tech firm, all charm and connections. He bragged about it, said his boss loved him. My eyes narrowed. If they knew about the fraud, would they still? I pulled up his company's website, found the HR email, and typed a message. Short, sharp, professional. Nathan Caldwell committed documented fraud. I wrote, attaching the court ruling. My finger hovered over send, my throat tight. I saw Mom's tired smile in my mind, her hands worn from keeping that house. I clicked. A week later, I heard from a mutual friend. Nate was fired. His boss didn't take kindly to fraudsters, especially ones who'd lied about their finances. Whispers spread fast in his circle. Friends stopped calling, invites dried up. I drove by his condo one night, my headlights catching that BMW, now parked crooked, a for sale sign taped to the window. My chest tightened, not with triumph, but with something heavier. I'd wanted him to hurt, and he was, but it felt like I'd swallowed glass. I sat in my apartment that night, the settlement check on the table, untouched. $200,000, plus $50,000 in damages. It could fix my car, pay off my loans, but it couldn't bring back the house. I touched Mom's apron, its edges fraying, and my eyes stung. I'd won, but at what cost? Nate was crumbling, jobless, isolated, his charm useless now. I'd pushed him there, and part of me reveled in it. But another part, quieter, saw the kid he used to be, the one who'd shared Mom's hugs. My throat burned, and I shoved the thought away. He'd earned this, hadn't he? I stood, pacing, my footsteps heavy. The victory was mine, but came with a shadow. I'd torn Nate down, exposed his lies, but the house was still gone. Mom was still gone. I stopped, my hand shaking, and looked at her apron again. I'd won the fight, but something else was waiting, something I wasn't ready to face. My phone lit up, Nate's name on the screen. His message was 3 words. We need to talk. The lot was nothing but dirt and weeds, the pines looming silent around it. I stood where our porch used to be, the air heavy with the scent of earth and loss. No cedar walls, no creaking floorboards, no echo of Mom's laugh. Just an empty scar where our home had been. My boots sank into the soft ground, and my chest tightened, a dull ache that hadn't left since the courtroom. I'd won. Nate was broke, jobless, his life unraveling, but standing here, victory tasted like dust. I hadn't been back since that first day, when I found the house gone. But after Nate's text, we need to talk, I needed to see it, to feel the weight of what he'd stolen. My hands shoved deep in my pockets, I walked the lot, picturing Mom's garden, her roses now just memories. The settlement check sat in my bank, $250,000, but it couldn't rebuild this. I kicked a stone, my throat burning. I'd torn Nate down, tipped off his boss, watched his world crumble. It felt right then, but now? My stomach twisted. Had I gone too far? I sat on a stump, the one where Mom used to rest after weeding. My fingers brushed the rough bark, and I saw her face. Tired, kind, always forgiving Nate. Growing up, he'd break her rules, charm his way out, and I'd stay quiet, cleaning up his messes. This time, I hadn't. I'd fought, exposed his fraud, made him pay. But the cost wasn't just his. I'd lost him, too. My brother, the only family I had left. My eyes stung, and I wiped them hard, angry at myself. He didn't deserve my guilt. He'd forged my name, sold our past. Yet the ache lingered, heavy as the dirt under my feet. I thought about his text again, those 3 words staring at me from my phone. I hadn't replied. Part of me wanted to hear him out, to see if he'd beg or apologize. Another part wanted to keep the distance, let him drown in his own ruin. My breath hitched, and I looked at the empty lot, imagining Mom's voice. Fix it, Jason, she'd say, not about the house but about us. But how do you fix a brother who'd rather steal than share? My hands clenched, nails biting my palms. I couldn't bring the house back, but I could do something with the money, something she'd want. I stood, my resolve hardening. The settlement wasn't just cash. It was her legacy, her love. I'd use it to honor her, not to patch my own life. A community center, maybe with a garden like hers, a place for kids like we were. My heart steadied, the ache easing just a fraction. Nate had taken the house, but he couldn't take her from me. I'll make sure of that. I turned to leave, the lot silent behind me, but my steps felt lighter, like I'd found a piece of her again. My phone buzzed again, Nate's name flashing. This time, I answered, my voice cold. What do you want? Nate's voice cracked through the phone, softer than I'd ever heard it. I'm sorry, Jason, he said, the words heavy, like he was choking on them. I stood in my apartment, Mom's apron on the counter, my grip tight on the phone. My pulse thumped in my ears, but I kept my voice cold. Sorry doesn't bring the house back. He went quiet, and for a moment, I saw the kid he used to be, trailing me through Mom's garden, laughing. But that kid was gone, buried under forged signatures and greed. I hung up, my chest tight, and turned away from the past. The settlement money burned a hole in my account, $250,000 sitting there, taunting me. I could have fixed my car, paid off loans, started over. But every time I thought of spending it, I saw Mom's face, her tired smile, her hands dirt-stained from planting roses. She'd want more than my comfort. I drove to the empty lot again, the dirt still raw where our house once stood. An idea had taken root there, on that stump where she'd rested. A community center, a place for kids to learn, to grow, named after her. I called Karen the next day, my voice steady. I want to donate it. All of it. The process was slow, paperwork piling up like the grief I carried. I worked with a local charity, sketching plans for a small building with a garden out front. Roses like hers. My hand shook as I signed the donation papers, not from doubt, but from the weight of letting go. The charity director clasped my shoulder, her eyes kind. "This'll mean something, Jason." I nodded, my throat too tight to speak. I saw Mom in my mind, nodding too, her smile brighter than I remembered. Months later, I stood at the groundbreaking, the lot no longer empty. A crowd gathered, kids from my school, neighbors, even Mrs. Larson, her eyes wet. The sign read, Elaine Caldwell Community Center, Mom's name in bold letters. My chest swelled, a mix of pride and pain. Nate wasn't there. He called again, weeks back, voice low, saying he'd lost everything. Job, friends, that damn BMW. "I didn't mean to hurt you," he'd said. I didn't answer. Some wounds don't heal with words. Back in my classroom, I graded papers under fluorescent lights, the hum familiar, grounding. My students laughed, argued, learned, and I felt stronger, like I'd rebuilt something Nate couldn't touch. The center was growing, kids already planting roses in the garden. I kept Mom's apron on my shelf, its edges frayed but whole, like me. Nate's betrayal had carved me open, but I'd found a way to fill the space. Not with anger, but with her. I wasn't the fool anymore. I was the man she'd raised, standing tall on a new foundation. As I locked my classroom door, a letter slipped under it, Nate's handwriting on the envelope. My hand froze, unsure whether to open it or burn it.